Hello, it's me, Robin, with Simple Food, Simple Life. Welcome to part 3 of my yeast experiment. Stick around. I think you're going to be impressed. Okay, this is part 3 of my yeast experiment. Now, I want you to see, this is the yeast slurry, and I want you to see how runny it is. And after I did part 2, I was like a couple days later, I put in 2 tablespoons of flour in this, and I put in a little bit more sugar, and I also put in a cup, or not quite a cup. I wanted to try to bring it up to a cup in the jar because this holds 2 cups. I added warm water, and I brought it up to around a cup. It was actually a little bit more than that, but anyway, so that the level would be a cup. So this morning, and then I left it out, the jar out, with the lid on, and let it proof again, and it got all bubbly and nice. Then I shook it up, put it back in the refrigerator. So it's been in there ever since, which has been, what, the last 2 days, 3 days, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to give it a try again, and I'm going to just make a little starter because I'm going to make some pizza dough. Now, you've seen my video, I hope you have, of making the personal sized pizza dough, pizza crust for the freezer. I'm down to 1 of those. So I think I would like to make some more. So I'm going to make my starter for that. So let's hope this works out. And I hope that you have checked out my part 2 video, because that was kind of nifty. So I'm going to add 1 cup of warm water to this flour, and it is actually 1 cup of flour. I'm going to add a tablespoon, or not quite a tablespoon. I don't think it's that important, but I'm going to add a little sugar, and I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of my yeast slurry. Hear that little bit of pop fizz there? Okay, I'm going to get down in there because it's a little foamy, and I'm going to add 4 tablespoons, which is the equivalent of a 1/4 cup. I'm going to give that a stir. Now, I'm not too picky about how I stir it. Now, I'm going to do the same procedure as I've done before. I'm going to cover this up. I'm going to tuck it back up here on top of my microwave, and I'm just going to let it proof. So let's see how it does. See what it looks like? It's lumpy and bumpy. That's okay. I hope this works, because if it does, I think I'm onto something here. And because, now, I'm not trying to make this a sourdough. I've done that before, and you really have to be dedicated to that sourdough starter. And plus, they want you to, whenever you feed the sourdough, they want you to discard part of it and then feed it. And honestly, to me, it gets messy, and, you know, I don't want to be married to it. Where this, I'm thinking that just keeping it like that, it's less messy. And when you do smell it, it smells kind of boozy. You could smell the fermentation. But when you make a starter out of it, you don't get that that taste in the starter at all. So you're not getting a sourdough taste. And some people don't care for that. I don't mind it. I like sourdough bread, but some people don't care for that sourdough taste or texture. So we're going to cover this up. We're going to go for it, see what happens here, and I'll bring you back and let you see what this starter does. Hello, we're back. This is the part 3, don't forget, part 3 of the yeast experiment. Now, as you saw earlier, I took a cup of flour, I took a cup of warm water and 4 tablespoons of the yeast slurry from the refrigerator, and the water was just barely warm, by the way. And I put them in a bowl and stirred them up to rise. I want you to see the end result of the starter. Look at that. It worked. I am very, very happy. I think this is going to be a game changer for me when it comes to baking bread products. And it smells really good. It does not smell boozy like it does in the jar. Because remember, I'm not doing sourdough at all. I'm just want to have the yeast slurry active so that I can activate it in flour, little sugar, and I did put a little sugar in here, and warm water, and hopefully that will do it. And so far, so good. This is 3 times now. So I'm going to make pizza dough. And this is similar to the other way, to the way I made pizza dough prior in that particular video. And I'll put a link down below. I'll try to do that so you can go to that if you want to. Because that method is a little bit different. I just added the yeast packet in directly, used 1 yeast packet, put it in directly with a little bit of oil and some water and the flour, and made my pizza dough. Now this flour, just so you know, is self-rising flour because that's what I happen to have. I don't think it really makes any difference one way or the other. But that's what I've got. So now then, I'll put a little well in there, I think. And I'm going to, realizing this is more than 1 cup, I'm going to pour this in there. Because you know it's flour. It is rather thick. Thank goodness. So it smells very good. It doesn't smell boozy or fermented or anything. It just smells like yeast. And I'm going to add a little bit of, I hope I have enough in here. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to the mix. And that's it. I'm going to stir this up. Now then, if I have to add more water, I will. I'm expecting to have to add some more water, and that's fine. I think for the fun of it, I'm going to add to this batch of pizza dough some garlic, and I'm going to add some Italian seasoning. I'm going to season this crust, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt to the mix as well. I can see that I'm going to need some more water, so I'm going to grab a cup of water. Put that in. Now, that water is just barely warm. It doesn't necessarily have to be warm, but it is. So, okay, so far so good. Now, I'm suspecting I will need to use all of that water to make this dough. So, it's basically like the other pizza crust recipe I did for you, except that this one has our yeast slurry starter. Does this ever happen to you? Sometimes I can't sleep at night and I think of things. I think of things like this. Or I'll think of a recipe, or I'll think of a way to do something, or think of a way to save or salvage something. And it doesn't just happen with food, it happens with lots of stuff. I kind of think that's divine intervention. It's because my mind is trying to go to sleep, is trying to relax, and it can't. And because I think maybe deep down there is a problem that needs to be solved. And sometimes that solution will come to you. And I think that's kind of divine intervention. That's just my opinion. You can think whatever you like. So, there's our dough. Grab a little flour on my hands. I think, for the fun of it, I'm going to just pretty much leave this in the pan or in the bowl. I'm going to let this rise in the oven with my light on. Remember how I did it last time? I covered up the dough, left it in the bowl, covered up the dough, and I put it in the oven with the light on. Not the heat, just the light. And roll this over and let it rise. Let it rise. And I'm going to do the same thing with this side. Put a little bit of oil in there. And see where we get with this. Okay? So in it goes, in the oven, with the light on, covered up with a towel. And I'm just going to let it rise till hopefully it's doubled in bulk. Okay? All right. So, here we go. Okie doke. The rise is done, and I am very, very happy with this. Very happy. Happy, happy, happy. So, now what I'm going to do, I'm just pressing the air out of the dough, and I'm just going to turn it out onto the pizza stone that I have out here. I'm going to make 4 personal size crusts because I know that with this particular recipe, that's how much I'll be able to get, because that's how much I got last time I made it. And if you haven't seen that pizza crust video, then by all means, I'll put a link down below and you can, in the description box, and you can look at that for yourself. That was not done with the yeast slurry. It was actually done with 1 package of yeast. So anyway, I'm just going to turn this out and get this pressed out so that I can get the 4 portions out of it. Now, I like my pizza crust thin and a little on the crispy side on the bottom, but you can do yours however you like. If you like a thicker crust, then you're really just going to get fewer crusts out of it. Okay? So if you like a thicker crust, you might get 3 crusts instead of 4. So I'm just pressing this out, making sure that I get the air bubbles out of it, and so that I can divide it up. Now, once I divide this up, I'm going to try to get them in as even of portions as I can. If you have a scale that you like to use and you want to weigh each portion out, by all means you can, but I don't have that, and so I just gauge by eye. I just eyeball it and see what it looks like, and if one looks a little bigger than the other, then I can take away or add to. I'm not a chef. I don't really go for perfection, as you probably know by now. So now I've got my 4 portions cut, and I'm just going to separate them and put 3 of them back in the bowl, and I'm going to get the other one pressed out. Now I don't use a rolling pin for this. I just use my hands. If you want to use a rolling pin, by all means, go ahead. Now, I will use a little bit of olive oil as I go along to make the process easier. And like I said, I like the bottom of my crust to be a little bit crispy. So the oil helps with that effort. You know your cooking utensils, and you also know your oven, so you'll know how to proceed with this. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to. Now just pressing this out, and just to make sure that it's the size I want. They're not going to be perfectly round. I have to confess, I'm not very good at that. And don't forget, these are going to go in the freezer. So I will make sure that they're frozen before I pack them in a zip bag. And actually, I should be able to get all 4 of these crusts in 1-gallon zip bag. At least that's been my experience. I'm actually down to 1 crust, and I thought, that would be a good part 3 for my yeast experiment, to just go ahead and make some more pizza crusts. I actually still do have 2 large, about 12-inch pizza crusts in my larger freezer. These I keep upstairs in my regular freezer because they're handy for me to use. And you know what? If you're a single person, or it's just great for kids, you got little kids, how handy is this? You guys should try it. I got my handy dandy roller out there. That's actually an antique meat tenderizer. And I put indentations in the dough, and honestly, that's all I use that for. I never use it for a meat tenderizer. And what it does, it gets the bubbles out, it keeps it from bubbling up, and it also gives a place for the sauce to hide when I get ready to make the pizza. All right, I'm going to work on the second one here, but honestly, this is just pretty much rinse and repeat. There is nothing new to see here. It's just doing the same thing. So that's what I'm doing. Nothing new. All right, I got the second one done, as you can see. Now, for the next two crusts, I'm going to use pie plates. And this should demonstrate to you that, honestly, use a pie plate, use a cake plate, use whatever you want. I'm putting a little bit of oil in here, too, so it doesn't stick. And then I can pop it out easily when I get ready to freeze them. So here goes, just here. This is the third one. And I do pretty much the same thing. I just press it down in the pie plate, and then I'll take my handy dandy roller and roll the indentations in it, and then, you know, get on with the fourth one. I really like this glass pie plate. I've got another pie plate which I'm also going to use. It's got a big crack down the middle. How it stays together, I don't know, and how it got that crack, I don't know. But it's a pretty pie. Excuse me, it's a pretty pie plate, but it's cracked. Okay, that was easy. And honestly, if you want to use just pie plates for all of them, or a 9 or 8 inch cake round, you know, a round pan, use that. You can press them out on cookie sheet. Honestly, it's just whatever you want to use, whatever you have available to you. And if you don't have enough plates or trays to do this on, just do what you can, bake what you can, and then put your dough aside until you're ready to use it. Just cover it up so it doesn't dry out, and then bake them, because they're only going to go in the oven about 400 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes. That's really all it takes. See what I was doing there? I didn't take out the other pie plate. I was looking for it. Look at that crack. Oh, how disturbing. I usually don't go for fancy bakeware. The simpler the better, but I really like that pie plate, and it gave me a lot of joy, and then it got a big crack in it. So from baking a pie, I don't know what causes these things, but as long as it holds together, I'm going to use it. You hate shopping. I hate shopping. So that's why I don't have very many new things. All right, we're getting this one done. Like I said, we're going to get these in the oven at 400 degrees and for about 10 to 12 minutes. Now, I'm going to try to put them all in there at once. So I'm going to have to probably rotate, because some of them are going to be on the bottom and some of them are going to be in the middle rack, and I don't want them to burn. So about midway through the baking time, I will probably rotate them. Okay? All right, listen, I love you guys. You know I do, and if I can do it, you can do it. Just give this a try, and I'm excited for part 3. Okay, listen, As always, you know that little is much when God is in it. Please like, subscribe, and share. And stay to the end because you want to see the photographs of part 4 that I made.